Hi, everybody. This is Tiffany with Boss on a Budget. I help new and small nonprofits get up and running. Hello, hello, hello. Thank you for joining me on my weekly live where I share grant opportunities. If you need help starting your nonprofit, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I actually drop a new video every week, and now I'm going live every week to talk about grant opportunities. So thank you for joining in. I'm going to drop some goodies as I talk through the live today. So you'll see links, and I'll also add links to the description box. So you'll see links in the comments and then also in the description box. So just first, I just want to tell you, I have a grants worksheet. I'm about to drop this in the, if I can find it. I have a grants worksheet where I basically help you find grant opportunities for free. So if you're trying to figure out a way to find grant opportunities, you're not ready to pay yet, then I really recommend you use this worksheet because it helps you figure out how to find free opportunities in your area. So I'm about to drop this link below. Hey, Lakeisha. So don't forget to check it out. Okay. So I'm going to talk about three grants. So I send a list of grant opportunities every Friday afternoon to my mailing list. So once you download that grants worksheet, you're automatically added to my mailing list and you get those grants. So I'm going to talk through those three grants that I sent last week, but also I'm going to share a couple more grants that I found that I thought you guys would be interested in before I get off. So actually I'm going to do those first so we can talk about them. So the first one I want to talk about is Collins Foundation. I'm dropping the link. Okay, so if you guys see this on the screen, this is Collins Foundation. So there are still grant makers that are putting out COVID-19 grants, okay? And so mostly their COVID-19 grants are what you will see like the rapid response or grants for like tangible items like personal protection equipment, the PPE, the mask, and all of that. There are still foundations that are putting out information and putting out grant opportunities for that. So I wanted to drop some of those in this, okay? So this grant is for a focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion in the work that you're doing. So ever since George Floyd, ever since his murder and all the protests that happened after that, there has been a really strong focus on looking at race equity, looking at diversity and inclusion and all of that. So you're going to see that a lot. It's just a trend that's happening this year. Who knows if it's happening next year? But this is just a particular trend that we're seeing with grant makers right now. So this is a foundation in Oregon. So I know not everybody's in Oregon, but I just want to share it in case somebody is here. But this is a foundation that typically awards arts and culture, child welfare and development, education, environmental protection, health equity, and anything else related to community welfare. And the reason why I wanted to share information about it was because it's very broad, right? So sometimes you'll see grants that it's just you can just get money for projects or for programs. But really, what you really want to see are grants for like general operating or like capacity building, the stuff that is hard to get money for. And this grant is open for all of those types of grants. So it's saying you can use it for programs and projects, you can use it for capacity building, collaborations, capital projects, and that means the purchase of some kind of property, challenge match campaign. So if you're raising money and you need them to match, and then also general operations. That is huge. You don't typically see that for most funders. You don't see them being that open, being that flexible. This also is a rapid response grant. So that means that they're going to respond to you pretty quickly. And their process is an LOI. So that means it's a letter of inquiry, meaning you just have to submit no more than 2-3 pages to them about the work that you want to do. And then if they want to work with you, they will invite you to write a bigger proposal, or like the larger proposal, or they may just award you the spot. So it just depends. So that's Collins Foundation. And I just really wanted to highlight that one because it's so broad and it's so much that they can pay for it, but it's in particular for Oregon. And that's due October 22nd. And then it has another deadline for December the 10th. So just a heads up if you know anybody in Colorado to tell them about that. This next one is interesting. This is Union Bank. I'm about to drop the link. Now, I've never heard of Union Bank, this particular Union Bank. Um, it's actually, I'm trying to look for it's like a name before it, like MUFG Union Bank. That's what it's called, right? I've never heard of this bank. I don't think it's in my area, but they just basically committed $10 million, and they're focusing on nonprofits that are dedicated to social and economic justice in communities of color. So you saw how I said what the trend was? That is the trend. So they want their grants to focus on building economic stability, supporting access to capital, entrepreneurship, job retention, retraining, and providing critical social safety net services. So they have a really simple website. If you go to the link that I have there, it's not much there describing like how to apply or what they need from you. It's an online process. I'm assuming it's relatively easy, but they don't give any hints about what it takes to actually apply. But more than likely, they're only going to give to nonprofits who are in communities that they serve. That's how a lot of funders, especially those connected to like corporations or retailers or to banks and utility companies, they're only going to fund communities where they have a large presence, where they have like a headquarters, or they have like satellite offices. So just keep that in mind and check out that link to see if Union Bank is in your area. But it didn't say that it only funds just in their area. But they probably, if they don't say that, they probably have a priority just for the communities that they serve. So I would just keep that in mind as you're trying to think through that. The other thing I just want to ping here is that banks have money. So when you're looking for where to look for grant funding, think about the industries that are always going to have money. And the two biggies I always think about are banks and utility companies, simply because we need those to survive. Like for real, we don't really need banks, but you get what I'm saying. Everybody banks. You don't hear about like banks going out of business unless they just merge with somebody else or something like that. They always have funding. And even in some banks, they're required to provide community giving. So I would always check out my community banks. And if I could, I would go in there and talk to the managers, especially if you have a banking relationship with them. If you deal with them, you have accounts with them, you should be going in there and talking to them about your nonprofit, because you have no idea what kind of access that manager has. And then you have no idea what kind of funding and foundations that bank overall has set up. So it can be multiple levels you can get support. A lot of times corporations also want to give through employee assistance. So they'll give you their employees to volunteer. They'll designate a day and they'll volunteer for your nonprofit. There are so many things you can leverage when you're looking to corporations. So just keep that in mind. But I always tell people, check out the banks and check out the utility companies, because the utility companies, we need them, right? We need water, gas, electric, all of that. We're always going to be paying for that. So they always going to have money. So check them out, because typically they also have a foundation attached to them or a fund attached to them. And if they don't, then they probably give directly. And the way you get in is by personal connections. A lot of times they'll fund what their employees pick. So if you know people who work there, check them out too, because that's the way you can get in. So if you haven't noticed, a lot of this is about relationships. It's about, who's in your geographic area, who are you already connected to. That's what funders prioritize. So when you're looking for grant opportunities, go there first. That's why I always recommend people start like with my grants worksheet, because that helps you inventory who's around you that you can check out first before you start paying for grant databases and search services and all of that. So I hope that made sense. Any questions before I go to the next grant? Please feel free to drop them in the chat. Okay. So those are the two I just wanted to talk about that were kind of related to, like, not necessarily COVID-19, but new for this year, new in the last month, newly announced, that I just wanted to talk about. And now I'm just going to talk about the grant opportunities I put in my email last week to my grants list. Lakeisha said, no questions right now. No problem. Um, so this next one is the Gates Foundation. I'm pretty sure everybody knows the Gates Foundation. Most people probably go think of them first when they're trying to figure out, oh, who can we hit up for some money? Let's hit up the Gates Foundation. Interestingly enough, they don't do a whole lot of giving in the United States. They do a lot of their giving around the world. But the giving that they do in the US is typically around education. So I wouldn't necessarily always look to the Gates Foundation first. Don't go after the celebrities. Go after like the sneak attacks, like I said, the banks, utility companies that most people don't realize have money. But I found this opportunity. I just wanted to share it. So they have a new initiative called Balance the Equation. It's around helping Black and Latino students get more comfortable with math. And in particular, this one is around algebra. From what I can tell, they're going to focus on different subjects, funding like challenge grants to get people to serve kids to get more excited about certain subjects. And this subject in particular is on Algebra 1. So this is just helping them get more comfortable with math, helping them, learn how to do it, and giving them services to be able to pass those math tests, because those are indicators for things later on down the line, right? Their success down the line really depends on their ability to learn the basic math skills. So that's what this one is all about. I'm just going to go over like some of the things they're interested in. And this is across the US from what I can understand. So this isn't specific to a particular area, but they're interested in altering the traditional classroom experience for priority students. So figuring out alternative methods to teach kids to get them excited about learning math. So they're focused on building out support systems, improving the relevance of algebra content. So from what I can tell, that's making it more relevant and more real for kids, talking about it in their language and in their terms, elevating understanding of mathematical language, empowering and strengthening teacher practices, and developing new or better feedback mechanisms. So the focus of this grant really is in the classroom. So it probably would make sense for schools to go after this, but there's nothing wrong with you partnering with a school or creating content that can help a school. So maybe you are a nonprofit that deals in education and you can build out a curriculum or build out a program to complement what's happening in the schools. So I would just check this out. I will say, having looked at a lot of the Gates Foundation RFPs in the past, so RFP is request for proposals, they seem pretty complicated. So I just want to give you a heads up. This one may not be, but Gates in particular, I've looked at a couple of their RFPs in the past, and they look similar to government grants, which is out of control. So I'm just going to leave that right there. So I wrote down when that's due. That's due November the 6th. So if you know anyone who works in the school system, especially with the focus on math, or even people who do like STEAM, I know a lot of people are doing after school programming around STEAM. I'm not going to be able to spell out the acronym. Some people call it STEAM, some call it STEM. Some people put the A in it for the art, but the science, technology, I forget what the E is, and then the math. And if you put the A in there for the art. So if you know someone that might be who does that kind of work, that might be of interest to them. Alrighty. Hey, Lynn, you joined me on my live on YouTube. Look at Lynn on YouTube. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay, so this next one is Dr. Scholl. I'm gonna show this on the screen. Now, I probably am saying this wrong because I could jack up a name. I don't think this is the foot guy. I think this is somebody different. I could be wrong though, but this is Dr. Scholl Foundation. This one seems pretty general. I like to give a mix. I like to give some that are kind of specific, and then I like to give some grant opportunities where anybody, just about anybody, can apply. So their preferences on their website said they're interested in education, social service, healthcare. I see you, Lynn. Civic and cultural, and environmental. And then they even have a note that says, we're not limited by these areas, but this is what we prioritize. But if you're interested in something outside of this, if you know someone that we know, we may be open to hearing about it. This is interesting. They have a pretty simple website, but they do want, it seems like they want more established organizations. You have to have your 501c3 and you have to have at least 3 years of financial activity. Okay. So their limitations are listed on their website. They still seem pretty general, pretty broad. So this might be one you need to look out for basically anybody, because they cover the whole gamut. Okay. They cover just about everything. And they're pretty broad because they said they will fund only in the US, but they're also interested in funding outside of the US if they could be convinced. The only thing about this one is it just opened. So you have until March 1st to apply for this one, but I would apply as soon as possible. I wouldn't wait till the end. I see you, Lynn. So I would say check out Dr. Scholl. And if you need help, I'm going to drop some links. I have some resources that I created. Lynn, you already have all of these. But if you need help trying to organize your submission process, so how do you come up with a process and a pipeline for submitting your grant? So I have like my step-by-step process I use when I get a grant and how I check off the process and how I organize myself. I have a prospecting form. So it's a form you should use when you're reaching out to funders and asking them questions to see if your interests align. I have a proofreading checklist, a grant submission checklist, and then some other resources. So all of that's included in that toolbox. So if you're interested in that, check that out. Just want to provide you all the resources that you may need in order to actually submit. So that's for the submission toolbox. So let me go to the next grant. So this is the last grant, and this is the Norman Foundation. So I'm going to put that on the screen so you guys see this. This is the Norman Foundation. This one is pretty broad as well. So this one is focused on the principles from Thomas Jefferson, which I think is interesting, but it's all around liberty. So they focus on economic, environmental, and social well-being. And here's the specifics around that. They want to promote economic justice and development through community organizing, coalition building, and policy reform efforts. So people who are doing a lot of process and system reform, this one is for you. They also focus on preventing disposal of toxics in the communities and to link environmental issues with economic and social justice. So if you work on environmental issues and there's connection to social justice, it's talking to you. And then linking community-based economic and environmental justice organizing to national and international reform efforts. So obviously a very strong bent on economic and social justice and tying that together with environmental issues. So if that is someone you know, please feel free to share this video with them. Just let them know, especially people who do a lot of community organizing and do a lot of policy advocacy and do systems change. That's the kind of proposal they're looking for. And they seem to be very focused on how you further ethnic, gender equity, like what system models you're using, and then also how you're impacting systemic change. So if you do a lot of system reform, this is for you. But if you do like more direct services and practice with direct clients, probably isn't for you. So I just wanted to stop there. I only want to get on here like 20 minutes each night just to be around to ask questions and to just drop a few goodies. Now, some of these I didn't even put in my email last week to my grants list. Some of these I just found today, so I wanted to share them today. And I also have my grant writing group where I'm going to share some of these also because I have not been putting them in the group. I've been slacking lately, so I'm going to hit my group up with these as well. So if you don't have any questions from me, I am going to pop off. I will see you next week. I'm going to have more grant opportunities next week. If there's anything that you want me to talk about when I go live talking about the opportunities, feel free to hit me up and let me know. I love talking about grants. And oh, you're welcome, Lakeisha. Thank you for joining me. Eventually, it's going to go from You're welcome, Lynn. Eventually, we're going to have bunches and bunches of people on here. I just want to get the word out. And also, if you have questions and you don't know what it means in a grant, like a grant opportunity or whatever, you can ask that right here. I want to make sure I can help people with that. So, thank you, ladies, for joining me. I will see you next week. Bye.